Whether it's a one-day hike in Snowdonia, Glencoe or the Cotswolds, there's a few pieces of essential gear worth carrying in your rucksack. And it's a good idea to know how to use them so that you can get yourself out of trouble if you suffer an accident, if you have an injury, or if you're benighted. Because if you are embroiled in an incident, what you really want to do is focus all your energies on getting home rather than trying to work out how to use all this kit. Knowing how to navigate safely in all weathers and at night as well as during the day is one of the best ways to avoid problems. Many courses and instructional books are available. Staff at your local Cotswold store will be able to point you in the right direction. It's easy to think that a GPS can solve all your issues when it comes to navigation. After all, we use them in our vehicles and on our phones. But I don't think that totally relying on technology for safety is a great idea. After all, batteries can fail, and even shock-resistant models can be damaged if dropped a long way. A map and compass is still my primary method of navigation, especially in steep-sided valleys and heavily wooded areas that can affect the GPS signal. Don't get me wrong, GPS is a great tool. Some models can be tied in with digital maps to allow routes to be plotted on a computer prior to departure. You can also review the actual route you took, which may or may not be the same as the one you planned. I love reading maps. Subsidiary summits, remote campsites, hidden valleys, they're all here. When you're choosing a route, see if there are any escape trails along your path that will take you to a roadhead or habitation. Make a note of these during the planning phase, because if you have to make a sharp exit during the day because of foul weather, you don't want to be searching your map for options. It's easier to estimate your total time and draw up a route card in a warm room than on a wet hillside with a gale-force wind trying to rip the map out of your hands. Some maps are supplied on water-resistant paper, or you can laminate your own with a roll of Fablon. If you do buy a map case, make sure it's flexible enough to be folded up. This type, with a roll over top, is the best way to keep water out. When you're holding a map in your hand, keep the corner of your compass over your last known position, so you don't have to waste time reorientating yourself when you look at it. Routes often take longer to complete than guidebooks state, especially if it's the first time you've walked in an area or if the weather's bad. Setting out at dawn is a great way to increase the amount of time you have to complete a route safely in daylight. Leave early, and you could also find that you have the place to yourself, especially if you're on a popular trail in the height of summer. But what if it starts to go wrong? You could get lost, or a friend could twist an ankle, or you could meet somebody in another group who's in trouble. Mountain travellers have a tradition of always helping others in need, and of making every effort to get themselves to safety without involving the rescue services. But if the situation is getting out of control, or it's clear that people are going to be in more pain or danger if you try to move them, it's time to call in the experts. You might have thought that in this day and age, help is only a phone call away. But while some mobile phone operators boast that their networks cover 99% of the British population, very few people live on mountainsides. You can't rely on a mobile phone to summon assistance. Besides, your battery might die, and phones are easily damaged, especially if you've taken a tumble. If you can't get a signal, it might be worth spending 5 minutes heading uphill to see if you can get a signal, especially if it's going to take a long time to reach the valley and a landline. If you do call 999, remember, mountain rescue teams are volunteers and they're going to be putting themselves at risk to help you. So give them as much information as possible and leave your phone on so they can talk to you during their approach. If you have a GPS, make sure you know how to read the grid reference or the latitude and longitude. Tell them what the weather conditions are like, the exact nature of the incident, and what group and survival gear you have with you. To reduce your dependence on a phone, leave details of your intended route with a responsible person. Build in some leeway in your timings to allow for delays on the hill, such as river crossings or navigation issues. Give your contact person a cut-off time to call 999 in the event that you haven't telephoned to let them know you're safely off the hill. Whatever you do, remember to call this person. So often, people have a mini epic on the hill and then head straight to the pub to tell their mates, whilst a full-blown rescue has been started by a worried friend or relative. The key items you want to carry in order to maximise the chance of surviving an emergency bivouac without a sleeping bag or tent are a survival bag or bothy bag and a whistle. I'd add emergency food, a small first aid kit, a head torch, extra clothing and a hat to that list, even in summer. Besides, the top of mountains are usually colder than the valleys. All these items are relatively lightweight and inexpensive, so they can live permanently in the bottom of your rucksack. A survival bag is your main defence against wind and rain. Spending a night in one is a nasty experience, but it's not as life-threatening as being exposed to the elements during a storm. I've put on all the extra clothing I've got with me, and now I'm going to sit on my rucksack to insulate myself from the ground. All I need to do now is get in the survival bag and tuck it under. I cut a slit near the top to ensure a sufficient airflow. This slit also lets me keep an eye out for the rescue team and allows me to use my LED head torch. These modern head torches weigh less than a bar of chocolate and some cost less than a round in the pub. Many have a strobe feature in addition to providing regular light. That saves you from having to carry a dedicated emergency beacon, but remember that whilst a beacon shines in every direction like a lighthouse, this strobe is fixed, so you'll need to point it in different directions. The international distress signal is 6 flashes of light every minute. You can do the same thing with 6 blasts of a whistle every minute, which hopefully you'll have attached to your rucksack. Some rucksacks, like this one, even have a whistle built in. Another reason for carrying a head torch on a day hike is that if you're running late, you might be able to find your way safely off the hill rather than spending a night in the open. If you hike in a group of 2 or more, you could swap survival bags for a bothy bag. Also known as a Zarski sack, this shelter allows a group to remain together, which is really good for morale. At the end of the day, prevention is always better than cure. If you're not too ambitious, if you're physically fit enough, if you check the weather forecast, and if you're prepared to turn back if things start to go wrong, you'll have a high chance of enjoying a safe day on the hill. Cotswold stocks all the essential gear you need to stay safe in the outdoors. Pop in for a chat or visit the website for more advice and information.